Hi everyone, it's Clive. It's another brewing day and I've got another brewing kit to have a go at, and this one is from a place called Love Brewing, and I go to the Love Brewing in Chesterfield, so normally when I go for a walk in Derbyshire. So what I've got is something called Sail IPA, and what you get with these kits, you get a big bag of concentrate, this sort of gloopy, syrupy, sugary solution that has been pre-prepared from the malt. You also get a bag of glucose. Well, I'd already used this one, so I'm substituting it with a big bag of brew sugar from Wilco's. I've also got some hops, and that'll be for dry hopping. I've got some yeast. I've got some priming sugar for when we bottle the beer, and I've also got some instructions. So let's see how we get on with this. Next up, I'm sterilising a couple of fermentation bins, so these are about 25 litres each, and this is what I use. Basically this is normally for sterilising baby stuff, so I always say if it's good enough for babies, it's good enough for beer. So they'll soak in that for about half an hour to give them a proper sterilisation. One thing, using tap water in the brew kit, because we're not boiling like we normally do in the full grain method, you're not boiling off any of the chlorine that's associated with keeping drinking water clean. So you can add something called sodium metabisulfite, and you can buy that in something called a Camden tablet. So I just take one of these little tablets, crush it up and add it to the water. That should neutralise the effect of the chlorine. Fingers crossed, eh? So onto the proper brewing itself. So the first thing we've got to do is get all of this malt extract out of this pouch, and it's a bit of a sticky old business. So what they recommend is you soak the pouch in water which is about between 50 and 60 degrees C. Well, this water is just over 50 degrees C as it comes out of the hot tap. So I'm going to put that in there for about 15 minutes so it softens up. So this is the sodium metabisulfite, the Camden tablet, and what I've done, I wrapped it up in a bit of paper towel, and I've just whacked it with the end of a knife, and I'm going to put a bit of water in here, and hopefully that will dissolve nicely and I can add it to the water to help combat the chlorine. I'm even sterilising the scissors that I'm going to snip open the pouch with, and you can see I've got the airlock and the spoon, and there's my thermometer as well. Right, I've got to snip off the top of this bag and then pour the contents into the fermentation bin. Oh yeah, that's lovely and sticky in there. So here we go. Pour it in. Oh, lovely. Oh, smells fantastic. It's like some big golden syrup just blobbing into here. So I'm midway through washing out the pouch, and basically this is what you're ending up with, this very thick solution of sugar, malty extract in the bottom. So I obviously need to dilute this. Bit of warm water, but mostly cool water to get it up to in the sort of mid-20s, up to 30, no more than 30 degrees C. So we're going to fill this up as we go along. So I've got some warm water here. Let's wash out more of the malt extract from here. The more we get from here, the more sugar we have for the fermentation. What I'm going to do, I'm going to keep adding water, and then I'm going to have to stir in the syrup, and it's quite difficult to get it to dissolve thoroughly, so I'm going to have to get you. Going to be lots of me just stirring. Oh, that smells lovely. Right, let's give it a bit of a stir just to see how we're doing. So you see there's still quite a lot of goop at the bottom, so all of that has got to be dispersed and dissolved into the water. So A little bit of elbow grease is required to get this all dissolved. So I've took the water up to 23 and temperature of the sweet wort is running, should be less than 30. Here we go, it's going down. Ideally want it to be less than 30. Let's just check the side here. Yeah, see, say between 26 and 28 degrees C, so that's okay. Ideally between 20 and 25 it said on the instructions, but I think anything less than 30 is usually fine. So the syrup is well mixed. So first look at the bottom. Yep, there's no syrup sort of like left at the bottom there. So we're ready to add the yeast. Before I add the yeast, I'm going to just take the hydrometer reading. So I just drop the hydrometer into the sweet wort and try and get a reading. And we're running at about 0.039. Try that again. Yeah, 0.039. There we go, this is the yeast. Normally I hydrate the yeast by adding it to a bit of warm water and let it sort of like hydrate. But it just says in the instructions just add and sprinkle it straight in, so I'm going to do exactly that. Just going to sprinkle it in there and then just stir it in. And there we have it. I'm going to stick the lid on, and I've already got the airlock in with a bit of water in there, so I'll seal this up, and this will then stay for about 5 days after the fermentation as largely completed, and then I'll add the hops, and then it will sit for another few days before we start on to the next phase. Well, that was a little remiss. I forgot to add the kilogram of brewing sugar. So I've done that, I've stirred it in thoroughly, and I'm just redoing the hydrometer, and we're running at about 0.05, stay still, 0.053. It's day 5 of this current beer brewing, and I'm going to add these hops. So this is the dry hopping stage, and you can see here I've got 60 grams of these hop pellets. I'm going to put them in this bag, which is like a filter cloth here, stop all the mush from seeping out into the beer. Once this is full of hops, I'll tie it up, and then I'll pop it into here with some boiling water just to give it a sterilise for 10 minutes, and then I'll add it into the fermentation bin over there, which is still burbling away. So this has been steeping now, and I shall add all of this, including the sort of like fluid, because that's have lots of good resins and things from the hops in there, so I'll add all of that to the beer. Ready for beer bottling. I've got my 40 bottles all washed out and been sterilising overnight. I've got my crown capper here ready to cap the bottles when they're ready. I'm going to be sterilising all the equipment as always. 90% of brewing is sterilising, it seems. So let's get on with it. Just dissolved 150 grams of this priming sugar in 350 ml of boiling water, and I've got a little 10 ml syringe, and I'm going to add 10 ml of the sugary solution to each of these bottles, and what that will do is when I transfer the beer into bottles, it will kick-start the secondary fermentation in the bottle. There you go, that's all the bottles with their 10 ml. Next thing to do is sort out the siphon. So this is the end of the siphon. You can see there's a sort of like little cup at the end, and that basically stops sediment from being sucked up the siphon. And at the very end of the pipe is the bottling wand. So what I've got to do is get this inside here, and then I've got to get it to draw the beer through the pipe and then down the bottling wand. So what I'll do is I'll fill up this pipe with water. all the way through, and then hopefully that'll then, once I draw that through, it will then draw the beer to follow on from it. So that's the theory anyway. Let's see if it works. There we go, I've just taken the lid and you can see the bag of hops that I added, so I'm going to fish those out and put them to one side and get on with the siphoning. Well, that worked. A little bit messier than I normally do it, because I normally put the beer in a pressure barrel first, but I didn't do it this time. So I've got a couple of my measuring cylinders ready for the hydrometer test, so I'm going to start filling up these bottles. So you know how this works. There's a little sort of like tab at the end, and you press that into the bottle and that releases the beer into the bottle and it fills up. There you go, you can see it filling up. So I'll let it get to the top and I'll release it and then do the next one. All that remains now is for me to put the caps on the bottles, and you've got this thing called a crown capper, and you can see basically what happens is this goes over the bottle and it sort of squishes, and you press down the leaves and it squishes the lid onto the top of the bottle like that, sort of crimps it on. There we go, all done. That's 45 bottles, not a bad haul, so hopefully that'll be ready in about 4 weeks time. Okay everyone, that's the end of the video. Happy brewing, cheers!